Hello and welcome to the Munro Method Clancast. I am Jason Munro and this is episode 81. Been absent for a couple of weeks. I have had two mega weekends. The first weekend, good friend of mine, Sam McKenzie, took me down to Leeds to watch one of his fighters. Well, can you really say that? It's not his fighter, but a fighter who he works with, a boxer, Jack Catterall, went down to witness him getting his revenge on the Scottish boxer Josh Taylor, which was wonderful to watch, especially live. But that took up all of the weekend before. The weekend just gone by, I was then down in Newcastle for a joint 40th birthday weekend, which was also lots of fun, but it's kind of had me on the back foot a bit because it means I then have to make sure everything's up to date during the week, and there's only so much one man can do in 5 days. So I'm a little bit behind on podcasts. But I really wanted to talk about this today because it's my hot topic at the moment. I posted a daily post inside the Munro Method today talking about willpower. So to get this out the way early on, these are my views, right? I'm pretty sure that scientists believe that willpower is a thing. I think it's just a word that's been assigned to a thinking pattern that we have, right? But for the purpose of this, like, these are just my views, these are just my opinions, and these are my thoughts on willpower based on my experience of working with a not insignificant number of people over the last 6 years. There is a word, I don't know if I've probably done a podcast episode on this before where I've spoken about perfection. So the thing that I say to the people I work with about perfection is that if you want to benefit most from the word perfection, you should remove it from your vocabulary. Because especially when it comes to health and fitness and diet and nutrition and weight and whatever, like, perfection does not exist. There is no perfect diet. There is no perfect exercise plan. There is no perfect exercises to do, no perfect foods to eat. There are certainly great ways of balancing things, but there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. If the perfect diet existed, I would not be doing what I am doing because everybody would be following the perfect diet and nobody would have any weight issues, obesity wouldn't be a thing, and everything would be hunky-dory. And it's just not like that. And you know what? Part of the reason that people struggle with their weight is because they try to pursue perfection. But anyway, we're not talking about perfection today. We're talking about willpower. And again, the reason I mentioned that was my feelings about willpower are very similar to my feelings about perfection. Like, if you want to benefit most from willpower, forget about it. Like, don't forget even thinking that it's a thing or that it exists or that it's something that you need to be able to achieve your goals, right? Willpower is a word that people use to try and describe their inability to behave the way they think they should. Okay, so you think you shouldn't have a takeaway, but you do it anyway because you think you don't have any willpower. You think you shouldn't have chocolate, but you do it anyway because you don't have any willpower. You think you shouldn't drink alcohol at the weekends, but of course you do it anyway. But it's not down to willpower, right? It's a very disempowering mindset to have, that willpower is going to be the guiding force behind you achieving your goals or not. Because if you think that some fictitious thing is going to come and save you and it's going to change anything, then that's a very disempowering position to place yourself in. If you think the reason that you do the things you do is because you lack willpower, again, that's a very disempowering place to be. Because if you think there's this force inside of you that you don't have or you don't have enough of, then how on earth are you meant to change? So the fundamental thing you need to understand right at the very beginning of this is you are always doing exactly what you want to do. It's got nothing to do with willpower. If you order a takeaway, it's because you want a takeaway. If you eat chocolate, it's because you want chocolate. This idea of willpower is something that people use to try and manage their eating behaviors. It's a restrictive thing. So if we go right back, Christ, I don't know what episode it was, but if we go right back to the kind of early-ish episodes of this podcast, and this is actually an episode that I share inside Clan Munro. So on day 2 of the Munro Method, it's a mindset thing. I'm just going to go have a look at day 2 to remind myself what number. I know the name of the episode. I don't remember the number. So day 2 is about preparing your mindset. It is the most important lesson. It's also the most commented on lesson of the 14 days, preparing your mindset, because it's about me helping people get their minds into the right place before we even start talking about weight loss or anything like that, right? And it's a massive light bulb moment for everyone who comes to work with us. Okay, and here's the podcast episode. Restricting versus choosing, episode 26. So that's the one that I've linked on that. Yeah, it's like at the bottom of every lesson, I have like an optional extra, because people have to wait 24 hours before the next lesson is released. So it's like, if you're really desperate to get your teeth stuck into something else and you're feeling motivated, go listen to this. Restricting versus choosing. And this is where the willpower thing comes in, right? Because people try to manage their eating habits through restriction rather than choice. So if you really want to get into that, go back to whatever I said. I forgot already. It was 24 or 26. Go back to that episode. If you're watching on YouTube, the video version of this, then it's not here because I've only started recording videos recently. But if you go over to something like Spotify, you'll find it there. But it's the difference between restricting versus choosing. So restricting is, for example, right? If you want a takeaway and you are arguing with yourself about whether or not you should or shouldn't have it, and then you eventually have it. And then afterwards, you feel like shit because you're like, oh, I didn't need to have that. I shouldn't have bothered. It was expensive. I wasn't even that hungry. I didn't even enjoy it. Blah, blah, blah. You were trying to manage yourself through restriction, right? You were trying to hold yourself back from making a decision that you wanted to make. So it's not about trying to stop yourself from making the decision. That's what willpower is, right? That's your ability to stop yourself, your ability to, that's what people think willpower is, your ability to control yourself. So it's not about trying to control your eating habits, trying to stop yourself, because again, you're doing what you want to do. When I was in my 20s, I used to eat takeaways 3 to 4 times a week. I drank a lot of beer, drank at the weekends, did not move very much. And that's why I was a 14-stone version of myself, right? That's why I was overweight back then. And I can look back now and say that, that's the way I was because that's the way I wanted to be. I didn't want to cook. I wanted to come home from work and not have to stand in a kitchen. I wanted to play my Xbox or my PC, Final Fantasy 11 MMORPG, if you know what those are. If not, it doesn't matter. But games that you had to invest a lot of time in. I wanted to drink. I wanted to get drunk. I wanted to escape from reality. I wanted to do a lot of things that weren't great for my health. Why? Because my health was not important to me. Like, I didn't care about my health back then. I was 20. I was still young. I was still of the mindset that I was fit and healthy because when I was in my early 20s, late teens, I was very active. And then, of course, alcohol, takeaways, money from a job, living by yourself, all these things happen and you have more freedom and it's very easy to stop taking care of yourself, so, as I'm sure many people can relate to. So back then, I didn't lack willpower. That's just how I wanted to live. I probably thought willpower was a thing back then. I probably thought that was at my reasons for not taking very good care of myself, but ultimately I was living the way I wanted to live. Yes, it was having a detrimental effect on my health. Yes, it was having a detrimental effect on my weight, but it wasn't having enough of a detrimental effect for me to do something about it. So when it comes to trying to change these things, right, it is not about trying to force yourself to be different, trying to force yourself to not do that thing anymore. I'm going to stop ordering takeaways. Friday night, you've got that mindset where you want to reward yourself for getting through a tough week or a tough day with the kids or whatever the case might be. Maybe you just want to mark the end of the working week and start celebrating the beginning of the weekend, like whatever the case might be. You have a reason why you order takeaways. It is not then about trying to get better at stopping yourself from ordering takeaways. That's the restrictive approach, right? You're depending on you to be able to step in and stop you from doing something that you want to do. That, when I say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. That is not a long-term strategy. You should not be the person who's trying to get between you and the thing. And this is the difference between restricting and choosing. This is the difference between whether someone depends on willpower or not. And now it's about choosing, right? I am not going to have a takeaway because I don't want to have a takeaway. If I want one, I will choose to have it. If I don't want one, I will choose not to have it. It shouldn't be, I need to get very good at stopping myself from doing this thing. So willpower goes out the window here. I'm going to give you a great example. Here's a ridiculous, if you're watching this on video, I keep looking to my left because that's where my screen is from the thing that I wrote today. Here's a ridiculous example to get this point across, okay? Let's just stick with takeaways. I don't know why I've honed in on takeaways, but let's stick with it. If I asked you to stop eating takeaways for a whole year, in fact, just relate this to any unhelpful habit you have. What habit do you have that you feel is getting between you and achieving your weight loss goals? Is it snacks? Is it takeaways? Is it alcohol? Is it meal planning? Is it not cooking any of your own meals? Like, well, whatever it is. If I just came to you and said, person, whatever your name is, I was going to say Karen. Why does everybody always pick on Karen? It's not fair. Person, why? Okay, person, I would like you. So first of all, you're going to tell me what your unhelpful habit is. Fine. I'm going to ask you not to do it for a year. Right? Do you think you can manage it? No, of course not. All I'm doing is asking you, right? All I'm doing is asking you to not do something. You've already tried that. You've already tried to not do it. You know it doesn't work. Me coming to you and just asking you the question, can you not do this thing for the next 365 days? I'll try, but I know what the outcome's going to be. Now let's change it. What if I came to you and I said, person, if you can go for 365 days without doing insert habit here, I will give you £1 million. Would you do it? Fucking right you would. Of course you would. £1 million. But the question is, would it have anything to do with willpower? No, willpower would go out the window completely. This would have everything to do with reward, right? This and the restrictive approach goes out the window. This is now all about choice. I am not going to do this thing because I value what lies at the other end of this decision. So I want £1 million in a year's time. What do I need to do to make that happen? I need to not do this thing. I need to order no takeaways for the next 12 months. If you told me there was £1 million at the end of that, you could do it standing on your head. If you told me there was a £10 at the end of it, then you're not going to do it, are you? Do you know, I've just kind of added that bit on. That's a great example for the whole high value goals thing. And this is what it's about, right? You would choose not to have any takeaways for a year because you want the £1 million versus just trying not to do it anymore for no reason whatsoever other than it's not a great habit. So this is why it's so important to forget about willpower, right? This is everything to do with reward. What is the reward that comes at the end of this? What am I going to get out the other side of this? Coming back to me in my 20s, right? I didn't lack willpower. I wanted to do those things because I did not particularly care about my health for most of my 20s. It wasn't until I hit the age of 30 I became a dad for the first time. I started getting interested in fitness and nutrition. Fast forward to I'm 38, I'll be 39 next month in July. I'm now a father of two. I've got two dogs. I'm married. I run a business. I take care of 400 people. I have a lot of reasons, high value reasons, to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, then how am I going to be capable of taking care of other people? I mean, I could take care of them, but what level would I be doing it at? That's the way that I think. That's the value that I place on my health now. So, and just to add to this, like, it's not that people don't care about their health, but it is that people aren't good at making decisions, right? We need to get better at making better decisions. And this comes back to the whole willpower thing being, willpower is a word we use to try and explain why we do things we don't think we should be doing. I'd put it in better words on this. I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah. Willpower is a made-up word people use to describe their inability to behave the way they think they should. So it's not that, I care more about my health than you because I eat fewer takeaways than you, or I eat less chocolate than you. It's not that. Everybody values their health to some degree, some more so than others. But I would say that most people don't want to die. Most people want to make it to a decent age. Most people want to see kids and grandkids growing up. But they also act in a way on a daily basis right now that does not align with that. And that's when this is something else we talk about inside the Munro Method. We do this on day 3, setting high value goals, where it's like, here is how you are choosing to live at the moment. Here is how you want your future to look. Is how you're choosing to live at the moment going to help you reach the future that you want to have? In most cases, no. Okay, so what do we need to leave behind? What do you need to stop doing? And what do you need to start doing so that you can create this goal version of life that you want, right? And that's the kind of pathway towards building high value goals and bringing your daily actions into alignment with the future. But that's not enough, right? Most people don't want to be overweight. Most people don't want to die soon. Most people don't want to have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, carrying higher levels of body fat, and all the other negative things that go along with taking poor care of ourselves. But they don't act in a way that aligns with that. Like, I know you don't want that to happen, but you're actually living in a way that's going to make that happen. And again, this is when people fall back on willpower. Oh, I just don't have any willpower. I just can't stop myself from doing that thing. And it's because it works to your detriment to try and go down the willpower approach. If people are trying to have more willpower, then they're not going to get anywhere. So what should you focus on instead, in my opinion? We need to focus on decision making. So let's assume for the moment that you understand what your high value goals are. So I'll tell you what mine are, just to give you some examples, right? So my high value goals, right? The reason that I wake up each day and do things to prioritize my physical and mental health is because, well, number one, I'm a horrible version of myself when I don't take care of myself. If I have a poor diet, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but when I did, if I was drinking alcohol, if I had a poor diet, if I wasn't exercising, I'm not a particularly nice person to be around. Now, that would be fine if I lived on my own and nobody had to be around me, but that's not how it works. I've got 2 kids here, 2 dogs, and a wife, and I also have to show up for 300 to 400 people each day inside the Munro Method. Now, how selfish of me would it be to take poor care of myself when I have so many people who are dependent on me on a daily basis? I don't want my kids to see a grumpy, crappy version of me. I don't want my clients to get a version of me that's running at anything less than 80%, shall we say. We don't do 100% here because 100% is perfection and we don't do perfection. But you get the idea, right? So that's part one. Part two is I've got two kids who are 5 and 9, who I want to see grow up, who I want to be able to play with, who I want to be able to be present with and create many memories with. And I want to be here a long time for them, but not just for them, also for their grandkids, so that, you know, in the same way that we've got grandparents who help out with our kids, I want to be there to do that for my kids. And and it's all of those kind of things, right? And then the obvious ones, like I don't want to die soon. I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to have any negative health outcomes. So I wake up each day. I wake up each day and take care of myself now, because I know the impact that will have on my future. That's what high value goals are. And then it's about bringing the way that you choose to live today into alignment with the future. So how can I take care of myself today to make sure the future that I want to create happens? So this is how we create these high value goals. Now let's assume that you've got these high value goals in place, but you're still not taking action to them. You're still not doing the things. Yes, you don't want to be overweight. Yes, you want to be healthy. Yes, you want to sleep great. Yes, you want to wake up with energy every day. You want to have a great diet. You want the food that you eat to energize you instead of making you feel tired and sluggish and bloated. And yet, you're not doing those things. Why? Not because of willpower, but because you're not good at making decisions yet. Because the thing about decisions is we make very biased decisions. Most people have a terrible decision-making process. They do not think things all the way through to the end. They don't think them all the way through to the end, right? It's like, I don't know, how many parts are there to a decision? Let's say there's 5 parts to a decision, okay? I don't know what those 5 parts are, but it just feels nice to break it up into 5 separate chunks. So they have the initial thought, then they make the decision, then they start thinking about the decision. Let's say that's the first 3 parts, right? Part 4 is what comes after the decision, and part 5 is what comes after, long after the decision. What comes long after the decision. Most people get to part 3 and then stop. The decision's already made, right? They've thought about it. They've got to part 3. They've focused on the benefits, the positives, the value that they're going to get from it. Alcohol's always a very easy one to pick on, right? Most people will say, I'm going out for a drink on Saturday night. Now, that's not the end of that decision. The end of that decision comes the following day. You know, could you imagine how much less you might drink if instead of saying, I'm going out for a drink on Saturday night and getting excited about it, you said, I'm going to go out and get a hangover on Sunday? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But let's be honest, that's the reality. You know, going out for a drink on a Saturday night, that's not where, you know, it doesn't finish there. You know, 4 or 5 hours of being merry on a Saturday night has at least a 16-hour knock-on effect going into Sunday. And if you're someone who does a lot of their planning and organizing on a Sunday and none of that gets done, then it's going to affect the 16 hours after that into Monday. So that one decision has a massive knock-on effect. So this is an example of how people make terrible decisions. It doesn't matter that you're drinking alcohol. That's just the one that I'm picking on. It's not just limited to alcohol. It could be anything, absolutely anything. But it's because we focus on the benefits first. We don't think a decision all the way through to the end. We just we have the idea. Let's get a takeaway tonight. Oh, that's a really good idea. What we could get. Oh, that new place is opened. Oh, that sounds fantastic. Oh, look at the menu. The menu looks amazing. Let's go for it. And that's it. You've only went through the first 3 parts. You've had the idea. You've got hyped up about it. All you've done is focus on the benefits and the excitement part of it. You've not thought about the next part or the part that comes after that. You've not taken anything else into consideration. Like, I don't know. Have I already eaten out today? Well, do you know what? I had that roll for breakfast and I did have that McDonald's for lunch. Maybe I should cook something tonight rather than eat out for a third time. Or do I, we've already got that stuff in the fridge. we're going to end up throwing that stuff out. That chicken's going to go off. That's like £5 worth of food that we're going to throw out, plus the cost of the takeaway. That makes the takeaway super expensive. How am I going to feel afterwards? How do I normally feel after a takeaway? Do you know what? We've already had 3 takeaways this week. This would be number 4. This is why we don't make good decisions, because we don't take this stuff into account, right? We make very imbalanced choices and we make very biased decisions. We bias the decision towards the choice that we want to make. We don't do the responsible thing and think it all the way through to the end and say, do you know what? I mean, this is something that happens to me a lot, and I have to wind my wife in quite regularly, because, in fact, she might even do it tonight. Let's wait and see if she does it tonight. But she might text me and say, oh, she'll just out of the blue say, oh, let's get a Dills. Dills is our local, it's a fish and chip shop, but they do great everything pretty much. Let's get a Dills tonight, right? And I would love to get a Dills, absolutely love to. But what I will do is I'll reply to her and say, no, we still have a Gusto meal left to have, which I cook anyway. It's not a big, massive deal to her because I do all the cooking in the house. I'll say, no, we've still got a Gusto meal to have, but if you really want to have a Dills tomorrow, then we'll have it. Because I'm not going to waste a Gusto meal that will be going out of date after today, probably. And then spending 20-25 quid on a takeaway, and also the cost of the Gusto meal that's going in the bucket. Now, once upon a time, I've just told you what I was like in my 20s. I was just told you how, if Claire had texted me when I was 24 years old and said, would you want a Dills tonight? Yep. Wouldn't even be a question. I would already be on the menu looking at it. I would have probably made the suggestion. But now, the way that I think about these things, and it's not about restriction. It's not about trying to control calories. It's not about necessarily trying to control my weight. It's just being good or being better at making better choices and thinking things all the way through to the end. If you can improve, if you want to work on something, don't be working on your willpower. Don't be trying to get better at holding yourself back. Don't be trying to get better at stopping yourself from making choices. I mean, if we want to think of it in any shape or form, think of it as trying to get better at delaying gratification. That's probably a good way to think of it. And if you want to get, because gratification, that immediate gratification is the reason that we make impulsive choices that tend to be unhelpful. Oh, I really fancy some chocolate right now. And you just get carried away with that. The taste of it, the smell of it, the thought of it, the thinking back to other times you've had chocolate, knowing how chocolate makes you feel. You get completely lost and wrapped up in that to the point it's like, Christ, I need to get some chocolate right now, instead of thinking the decision all the way through to the end. Do you know what? I don't really need chocolate right now. It's dinner in an hour. I could wait until after dinner. I could have some in front of the TV tonight. Do I really need to have it right this second? I've already had chocolate twice today. Should I probably have it a third? Should I have it a third time? Probably not. That's the point, right? It's not thinking the decision through to the end. That will help you delay gratification. Just getting better at just taking that moment to pause just for 5 seconds and say, okay, I've focused on the positives. Now let's focus on the negatives. Let's focus on thinking this decision all the way through to the end. So yes, I could have a drink on Saturday night, and it would be great fun, and it would be fun getting drunk and all the rest of it. But on Sunday, I said I was going to do this. On Monday, I've got this thing going on at work that I'll need to prepare for on Sunday. I've got a pile of ironing to do. The kids don't have any school clothes. I've not done the food shop. I don't know what I'm having to eat next week. All that stuff. Are you willing to, and you know what you're like with a drink, you know what you're going to be like on Sunday, you're going to lie in your bed for 4 hours, you're eventually going to get up, you're going to order a takeaway from somewhere, then you're going to lie on the couch and watch Netflix all day. All that stuff that's supposed to get done isn't going to get done. Your next week is going to be horrendous because you're going to be on the back foot for the whole week. And it all came down to that one choice that you made on that Saturday night to have that bottle of wine or those gins or whatever your tipple is. Hopefully the point is getting across here that none of these things, there's nothing wrong with any of these things. If you want to drink, drink. If you want to get a takeaway, get a takeaway. But do it as the result of making a good decision. Do it as the result of not making a biased decision where you had the thought and you just did it, and you had the thought and you just did it. Think it all the way through to the end. If you do this, willpower does not come into the picture. Like I don't think about willpower anymore. It's not about stopping myself from doing things. It's as simple as I wake up each day and do these things because there is something that lies on the other end of the decision. That's all it is. That's what high value goals are. And that's what bringing your life into alignment with your goals is all about. It's, am I waking up each day and making decisions that future me will thank me for? Because future me is the version of me that I am trying to become. That's the reason that I gave up alcohol in 2022. Someone's joined the Munro Method recently who was with us a while ago, who realized that alcohol was a big problem for her. She's went away, thought deeply about it. She actually listened. I mean, maybe she might listen to this. Hi, Tamara. Maybe she'll listen to this one, but she listened to my podcast, where I spoke about sobriety. That put her on to Kirsty from Sober Buzz. She worked with her. Tamara's now 5 months alcohol free, and I did a check-in with her the other day, and she was talking about, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the line of it was that she's looking for other things to start changing. Oh, she deleted her social media accounts. And it's one of those things where I said to her, like, it's very funny how, like, I did the same thing. I didn't delete social media accounts, but what happened was when I decided that I wasn't going to drink alcohol anymore, it's a catalyst. It was like, okay, so I've decided not to do this thing anymore, and my life has improved by about 600%. Like, what else could I do? If that's given me this return, what else could I change that would give me a big return? What things can I start? What decisions can I start changing that's going to give me a massive return? So Tamara identified alcohol as being an issue. She's 5 months sober. Alcohol's out the window, and now she's looking for the next thing and the next thing. So she deleted all her social media accounts. Her screen time has gone through the floor. She's not scrolling her phone in bed anymore. She's not wasting time on her phone. She's freed up a ridiculous amount of time. Do you know, I did a calculation this morning. If you spend let's do this on my computer. 24 divided by 7 days. If you spend 3.4 hours per day on your phone, you are losing 1 day per week. 1 day. All you need, 3.4 hours must be about 3 hours, 20 something minutes per day on your phone, which I think is the average anyway. You're losing a day a week to your phone. Like, how many people wish they had more days in the week, more hours in the day? A day a week to your phone, 52 days a year. Anyway, never mind that. But now, like, Tamara's looking for the next thing and the next thing, because she is on that kind of same journey that I was on 2 years ago, where she's realized that something that was a big issue for her, that was holding her back from areas in life, she has now made a massive change to, and she's realized the return on that change. So she's looking for other things, and removing the social media accounts from her phone was the next one. It's had a massive impact. And, now she'll be looking for the next thing and the next thing. So it's about taking the steps to bring your life into alignment with the future that you want to have. I'll leave you with this question. Here's a great coaching question, right? And you go grab a piece of paper and a pen and do this. Right at the top of a piece of paper, what is the best version, highest version? What is the highest version of me? Okay, so I did this exercise a couple of years ago. What's the highest version of me? And you start writing things like, so where do I spend my time? Who do I spend my time with? What do I spend my money on? Which hobbies do I have? How do I eat? How do I drink? How many takeaways do I have? How many times do I go out for meals? Do I eat fruits and vegetables? Do I exercise? Do I go for walks? How many steps do I do? So you're asking all these questions of yourself. Like, if I could write down the best version of me on a piece of paper, an absolute goal version of me, what does that person do with their time, with their money, with their health, with their fitness, with their hobbies, all these things? And then take a look at the way that you're living now and just look at the two pieces, right? And say, okay, what's out of sync here? So the goal version of me exercises 2 or 3 times per week. I am doing 0 exercise right now. The goal version of me cooks 5 times a week. I am ordering takeaway 3 or 4 times a week just now. And you don't have to do it all at once, but you just start gradually making changes to who you are today to bring you in line with the goal version of you. So if that's starting to exercise twice a week, awesome. Start exercising twice a week. Do that for 3, 4, 5 weeks. Once that becomes consistent, tick it. What's next? What else does the goal version of me do? The goal version of me meets up with their friends at least twice per month. So you go to your diary, you text some friends, you create 2 things. I'll meet up with them for coffee that day. We'll go out for lunch that day. Tick that off your list. And just start living the life that you want to have instead of continuing to choose to live the life that you don't. Fuck willpower out the window and actually take control. I didn't finish talking about this earlier when I said that, focusing on willpower is disempowering. It's disempowering because you think it's leaving you feeling helpless. Why can't I make the decision I think I want to make? It should be an empowering thing, because what you need to admit is that, this has nothing to do with willpower. I am eating takeaways because I want to eat takeaways. I am eating chocolate because I want to eat chocolate. I'm drinking alcohol because I want to do it. It's got nothing to do with willpower. I should not be dependent on me being able to get in my own way to stop me from doing the things that I want to do. So the willpower thing is very disempowering. The empowering approach is, do you know what? I am doing all of this shit because I want to do it. Like me in my 20s, the way that I took care of myself. I could have blamed anything and everything. I took care of myself like that because I didn't care. I woke up, I went to work, I got through the day, money went in my bank every month. And as long as that happened, I could treat myself like shit in between that. Just because I didn't care about my health at that time. And that's fine. Like, as long as we don't go through our entire lives like that, and then do have a heart attack at 54 and everybody goes, oh, he was so young, which seems to be happening a lot recently, isn't it? That's not funny, but isn't it interesting how you can go through your 20s and 30s not really knowing much about death other than when old people die, which was the case for me, like a grandparent, a nana, a papa, the kind of expected ones, then the rare unexpected one. But as you get into your 30s, into your 40s, and I'm sure it's going to just continue as I get older, the people that the people you grew up with, they start to go, and then that's when you start having these conversations. Oh, he was only 52, he was only 56, but he drank and smoked all these days and blah, blah, blah. I don't want people to be having that conversation about me. That's one of the reasons that, and you can't control everything, but you can certainly drastically reduce your risk by taking care of yourself. And I mean, again, that just gives some insight into the way that I think now, which is what makes it easier for me to not eat takeaways every day of the week, as convenient as it would be, to not do anything unhelpful, because that's just the way the train of thought that my mind has now and the way that I think now. And hopefully one day you can start to change the way that you think. You can start to change the way that you view things. But I think for most people, getting rid of this idea that willpower is something you should be trying to flex and build and work on and focus on, it's not helping you, it's hindering you, because it's leaving you powerless, because you think that you're powerless to do anything because you don't have any of this thing that does not exist. Start making better decisions. Understand the life that you want to live, the goal version of you. Have those high value goals. And if you are living in a way that does not line up with the life you want to have, you need to start changing those things. And a good start point for that is getting better at making better decisions, thinking them all the way through to the end, taking the cons into account, not just the pros. Anyway, that is enough passionate, emotional waffle from me for one day. I will catch up with you next week.